going to talk about how people perceive and use space, and this is called proxemics. Americans tend to have a fairly large bubble of space, and we avoid touching each other, while Europeans and Middle Easterners generally have a much smaller personal space. And when people violate our sense of space, while we may not even be conscious of it, it tends to make us very uncomfortable. And Jerry Seinfeld has used this to great comedic effect. What's he like? He's nice, but a bit of a close talker. A what? You'll see. And if you pay attention, you can see people either moving towards you or moving away from you, depending on what their bubble is like. Edward T. Hall noticed this, and he actually measured the amount of personal space that Americans have for different types of situations, and he came up with different categories of space, including intimate, personal, social, and public. And of course, this varies by culture. So the intimate space ranges between 18 inches to nothing. Personal space is about 1.5 feet to about 4 feet, so you can still kind of reach out and touch the other person, but they're not extremely close. And then there's social distance. This can be anywhere from 4 feet to 12 feet, depending on the situation. And this is typical for impersonal business meetings, social gatherings where you don't know the people very well. So here's intimate and personal, right? Friends and family, or even waiting in line. Here's a look at social proxemics. So here's some people standing on a bus stop, and you can see that people tend to space themselves out in these types of situations. In the 1950s, newsrooms and other business places would have a kind of open area for employees. So these are called pool desks. If you watch old movies, you can see this sort of thing. And then cubicles replace those old open area workrooms, providing employers with more privacy than those 1950s open workrooms, giving people a little more autonomy and a little less sense of being spied upon. And of course that has some drawbacks too, like cubicle culture, where we're all just sitting in our cubicles, staring at our computers and not interacting. Another really interesting phenomenon, and if you work in a restaurant, you already know this, is that people tend to go for corner spaces, especially booths, and wall tables before they go to one of those open air tables. This provides a little bit of protection from being observed, and you can also kind of stuff your kids under the table if they start acting badly. Americans tend to be really particular about our space. We like to delineate what space is ours, and we don't like people or the neighbor's dog violating that space. And so the prime directive of neighborhood space is stay in your own yard. Each year Americans buy enough residential fencing to encircle the earth about 3 times. And here's George W. Bush again. Honestly, I'm not doing this intentionally, but this really illustrates cultural differences in personal space. So here's George Bush walking up to German Chancellor Merkel and giving her a little friendly back rub. And here's Merkel responding in a negative way, saying, "What are you doing? Don't touch me." And we encounter these sort of awkward moments all the time when, you might be a family that comes from a long line of huggers and kissers, and you go to hug and kiss your boyfriend or girlfriend's mother, and then suddenly realize that was the wrong thing to do.